My two alien roommates snarled at others, but purred and dripped when I claimed them both. Unexpected roommates. Dr. Myra Chen stared at her bank account with growing dread. The university's budget cuts had slashed her botanical research grant in half, and her modest apartment suddenly felt like a luxury she couldn't afford. The advertisement she'd posted for roommates had attracted exactly 0 responses in 2 weeks, until today. "You are Myra Chen." The voice on her doorstep was low, cautious, with a melodic accent that made each word sound like music and warning combined. Myra opened the door to find 2 striking women who were clearly not human. The taller one had rich bronze skin with subtle iridescent patches along her temples and neck that shimmered in the hallway light. Her hair fell in thick dark waves, and her amber eyes held an intensity that made Myra's breath catch. The shorter one beside her shared similar features but with warmer copper tones and brighter golden eyes that sparkled with barely contained energy. "I'm Kessa," the taller one said, her posture rigid. "This is my sister Thyra. We saw your advertisement." "Are you Zytharian?" Myra asked, recognizing the telltale shimmer and the subtle ridges along their jawlines. "Yes." Kessa's voice held a defensive edge. "Is that a problem?" Myra had heard the rumors. Zytharian refugees were intensely territorial, prone to aggression, difficult to live with. Her colleague had warned her extensively about accepting their kind into her home. But looking at these 2 women, seeing the exhaustion in their eyes and the way Thyra's hand gripped her sister's arm for support, Myra made a decision. "Not at all. Come in." The relief that flooded both their faces told Myra everything she needed to know. They'd been rejected everywhere else. As they stepped inside, Myra noticed how they moved, graceful but alert, scanning every corner of her small apartment as if cataloging threats and exits simultaneously. "The rooms are small," Myra apologized, leading them through her cluttered living space filled with potted plants and research papers. "We don't need much space," Thyra spoke for the first time, her voice softer than her sister's but equally melodic. "Just safety learning to coexist." The first weeks were an adjustment. Kessa and Thyra moved through the apartment like shadows, hyper-vigilant and tense. When Myra's friend Devon stopped by unannounced, both sisters positioned themselves between him and Myra, their bodies radiating such menace that he left within minutes. "Sorry," Kessa muttered afterward, not meeting Myra's eyes. "We don't mean to scare your friends." "It's instinct," Thyra added, wrapping her arms around herself. "On our world, we were." She stopped abruptly, and Kessa's hand found hers. Myra learned not to press. Instead, she tried to make them comfortable through small gestures. She labeled shelves in the kitchen for their preferred foods, learned that they needed the apartment warmer than she did, discovered they were both brilliant with technology despite having no formal education in human systems. One evening, exhausted from a failed experiment, Myra collapsed on the couch where Thyra was watching a historical drama. Without thinking, she leaned against the younger sister's shoulder. Thyra stiffened, then slowly, carefully, wrapped an arm around Myra. A strange sound emerged from her chest, a deep, rhythmic rumbling that vibrated through Myra's entire body. "Are you purring?" Myra asked, amazed. Thyra's cheeks flushed darker. "It's a Zytharian response to contentment. I can stop if—" "No," Myra said quickly, settling deeper against her warmth. "It's lovely." From the kitchen doorway, Kessa watched with an expression Myra couldn't quite read. Later that night, when Myra was reviewing research data at the dining table, Kessa sat beside her. Tentatively, Myra reached out and brushed a strand of hair from Kessa's face. The elder sister's eyes fluttered closed, and that same deep purr resonated from her chest. "You're both so gentle with me," Myra whispered. "Why does everyone say Zytharians are dangerous?" "Because we are," Kessa said, opening her eyes. "To anyone who threatens what's ours." The way she looked at Myra when she said ours made heat bloom in Myra's chest, a feeling she knew she should examine but wasn't quite ready to name. Protective instincts deepen. Marcus arrived on a Tuesday evening, pounding on the door with the aggressive entitlement Myra remembered all too well. Her ex-boyfriend's face was flushed with anger when she opened the door. "You've been avoiding my calls," he snarled, pushing past her into the apartment. "We need to talk about—" He didn't finish. Kessa materialized from the hallway, positioning herself between Marcus and Myra with fluid speed. Thyra flanked her sister, and together they formed an impenetrable wall of barely contained fury. "Leave," Kessa said, her voice dropping to a register that made the air feel heavy. "Now." Marcus was tall, athletic, used to intimidating others. But something in the sisters' stance, the way their bodies coiled with predatory readiness, the shimmer along their skin intensifying to an almost metallic sheen, made him stumble backward. "What the hell are these?" "Out," Thyra growled, and the sound was so primal that Marcus fled, leaving the door swinging open behind him. The moment he was gone, both sisters turned to Myra, their fierce expressions crumbling into concern. Kessa's hands hovered near Myra's shoulders, trembling. "Did he hurt you before?" Thyra asked, her voice breaking. "Is that why you tensed when he arrived?" Yes. Not physically, but... Myra found herself pulled into their embrace, surrounded by warmth and that comforting purr that now came from both sisters simultaneously. Tears she'd been holding back for months spilled free. "We've got you," Kessa whispered against her hair. "Always." "No one touches you," Thyra added fiercely. "No one hurts you. Not while we breathe." Myra looked up at them, these fierce, beautiful women who'd been rejected by everyone, who still carried their own unhealed wounds, yet offered her unconditional protection. She cupped both their faces, feeling the slight texture difference where their iridescent patches caught the light. "You feel like home," Myra confessed. "Both of you. Is that allowed?" The sisters exchanged a long look, some wordless communication passing between them. Then Kessa leaned down slowly, giving Myra every chance to pull away, and pressed their foreheads together, a Zytharian gesture of deep affection. "On our world," Kessa said softly, "when someone feels like home, you don't let them go, surrender to desire." Rain hammered against the windows that night, the storm matching the electricity that had been building between them for weeks. Myra couldn't sleep, her heart racing with the memory of Kessa's words, the feeling of being held between both sisters like something precious. She found them in the living room, silhouetted against the city lights filtering through rain-streaked glass. They stood close together, speaking in low Zytharian whispers that stopped when they sensed her presence. "Can't sleep?" Thyra asked, her golden eyes luminous in the darkness. "I keep thinking about what you said," Myra admitted, moving closer. "About not letting go when someone feels like home." Kessa turned fully toward her, and the vulnerability in her expression took Myra's breath away. "We shouldn't have said that. It's not fair to burden you with." "What if I don't want to let go either?" Myra interrupted, her voice steadier than she felt. "What if I've been falling for both of you and didn't know how to say it?" The purring started immediately, deep and resonant from both sisters. Thyra moved first, closing the distance to cup Myra's face with trembling hands. "You mean that? Truly?" "Yes," Myra breathed, and then Thyra was kissing her, soft at first, testing, then deeper as Myra responded with matching hunger. The younger sister tasted like the spiced tea she loved, and her lips were impossibly warm. When they broke apart, Kessa was there, her amber eyes dark with want. "May I?" she whispered, and at Myra's eager nod, claimed her mouth with a kiss that was slower, more deliberate, filled with months of restrained longing. Myra's hands found their way into Kessa's thick hair while Thyra pressed against her back, lips tracing the curve of her neck. The iridescent patches on their skin began to glow softly, and Myra felt dampness where Thyra's body pressed against hers, the Zytharian bonding response she'd read about but never witnessed. "Bedroom." Myra gasped between kisses. They moved as one, a tangle of reaching hands and whispered endearments. Myra's bed had never held three before, but somehow they fit perfectly. Kessa's strong arms around her waist, Thyra's leg thrown over both of them, creating a cocoon of warmth and belonging. Clothes were shed slowly, reverently. Every inch of skin revealed was worshipped with touches and kisses. The sisters' bioluminescent patches glowed brighter with arousal, casting beautiful patterns across the ceiling. Myra traced those shimmering marks with her fingertips, marveling at the heat beneath. "You're so beautiful," Thyra murmured against Myra's collarbone, her hands mapping the curves of Myra's body with increasing confidence. Kessa kissed down Myra's spine while her sister claimed Myra's lips again, and Myra surrendered to the overwhelming sensation of being touched, wanted, cherished by both of them at once. The purring never stopped, vibrating through her bones, turning her entire body hypersensitive. "Tell us what you need," Kessa whispered in her ear, voice rough with desire. "Everything," Myra gasped. "I need everything with both of you." They gave it to her. Hands and mouths explored every sensitive place, learning what made Myra arch and cry out. The sisters moved in perfect synchronization, years of unspoken communication guiding them. When Thyra's clever fingers found the heat between Myra's thighs, Kessa's mouth captured her moans, swallowing every sound of pleasure. The slickness from their bonding response made everything feel more intense, their skins sliding together effortlessly. Myra touched them in return, learning the landscape of their bodies, the sensitive spots along their necks where the iridescent patches pulsed, the curve of their hips, the soft sounds they made when pleasure overwhelmed them. Time became meaningless. They moved through positions like a dance, Myra between them, above them, beneath them. Multiple times, waves of pleasure crashed over Myra until she was trembling and breathless. The sisters found their own releases against her touch, their combined voices harmonizing in ecstasy. Finally, exhausted and sated, they collapsed together in a tangle of limbs. The purring had softened to a gentle rumble, and the bioluminescence faded to a soft, steady glow. "Mine," Kessa murmured, pressing a kiss to Myra's temple. "Ours," Thyra corrected sleepily, her arm draped possessively across both of them. "Yours," Myra agreed, feeling more complete than she ever had. "Always yours. Belonging and forever." Morning light found them still entwined, and Myra woke to the sensation of gentle kisses being pressed to her shoulders. Thyra was already awake, watching her with such open adoration that Myra's heart swelled. "No regrets?" the younger sister asked softly. "Only that we waited so long," Myra answered, earning a brilliant smile. Kessa stirred behind them, pulling both women closer with a contented rumble. "Stay," she murmured into Myra's hair. "Just a few more minutes." They stayed much longer than minutes. The morning was filled with lazy touches, whispered confessions of feelings that had been building since those first uncertain days. Kessa spoke haltingly about the political scandal that forced them to flee, a refusal to enter arranged marriages that would have separated the sisters and denied their right to choose their own path. "We chose exile over losing each other," Thyra explained. "And now we choose you too." "I choose both of you," Myra said firmly. "Not as a secret, not as something to hide. I want the world to know you're mine and I'm yours." The sisters exchanged surprised looks. "Humans aren't always accepting of polyamorous bonds," Kessa said carefully. "Especially cross-species ones." "Then they can learn to be," Myra declared, surprising herself with her vehemence. "I'm not ashamed of loving you both." Over the following weeks, they built their life together openly. Myra's friends adjusted. Devon even apologized for his initial wariness. The sisters remained protective in public, flanking Myra whenever they went out, but their aggression was reserved only for genuine threats. At home, they were soft, affectionate, constantly seeking contact. Myra's research flourished with the sisters' help. Kessa's analytical mind helped her solve problems she'd been stuck on for months, while Thyra's intuitive understanding of biological systems opened new avenues of inquiry. They became a team in every sense. 3 months after that rainy night, Myra came home with a surprise. "I found a Zytherian artist who does traditional bonding marks," she announced, showing them the design she'd commissioned. 3 intertwined vines forming an unbroken circle, with tiny flowers blooming at each intersection. "You want to wear our mark?" Kessa's voice was thick with emotion. "I want us all to wear it," Myra corrected. "So everyone knows we belong to each other." The day they got the tattoos, all 3 on their left wrists, felt more meaningful than any ceremony. The artist, another Zytherian refugee, smiled knowingly as she worked. "It's rare," she said, "to see such perfect balance between 3 souls." That evening, they stood together on their small balcony, watching the sun set over New Terra City. Myra held both their hands, marveling at how the matching marks caught the light. "I was so scared when we arrived here," Thyra admitted. "Scared we'd never find a place to belong." "You found more than that," Myra said, squeezing both their hands. "You found home." Kessa pulled them both close, her purr starting up that beautiful rumble that Myra had grown to crave. We all found home, she corrected. Together. As the city lights began to twinkle below them, Myra understood a truth she'd carry forever. Family wasn't about biology or species or what others expected. It was about choosing each other, every day, with fierce devotion and tender surrender. It was about being brave enough to claim what your heart knew was right, even when the world said otherwise. Inside their apartment, surrounded by Myra's plants and the sisters' carefully arranged belongings, 3 lives had woven together into something unbreakable. The world outside could snarl all it wanted. Here, in this space they'd built together, there was only love, belonging, and the sweetest sound in the universe, the purring of 2 fierce hearts that had finally found their home in the arms of the woman who'd claimed them both. Lessons. True love transcends all boundaries of origin, species, or convention. It asks only for courage to embrace what the heart knows is real. Protection born from love is the gentlest force in the universe, fierce against threats yet tender with those it guards. Belonging is not found in perfection but in choosing each other through vulnerability, creating home in shared acceptance. The greatest strength lies in surrender to authentic connection, allowing others to see you completely and loving them just as wholly in return.